In 2026, I'm going to make my first feature film. This is the intention I am setting for myself, and god damn it, I'm gonna do it. Hi, my name is Dana Sanama. I am a filmmaker with over 15 years of experience behind the camera. But I'm turning 32 in a couple of months, and I have yet to make my first feature film. There's a lot of reasons for that, which we'll get to. I'm also a trans woman, to get it out of the way. It's usually the first thing people notice about me and is honestly the least interesting thing about my life, but we'll talk more about that later.
Or the brain is compromised. A person will die.
So, what the hell have I done in my 31 years? Well, for starters, my siblings and I started recreating movies when I was about 5 or 6 years old. And what movies do you recreate when you're a kid in the late 90s and early 2000s? That's right, Star Wars and Indiana Jones movies. We weren't original.
I don't know how to play the drums.
Now in middle school, I started making little action films with my friend Dean on the weekends, and we were having a ton of fun. This was also when I started teaching myself how to do the basics of VFX work. Yes, this is my bus. It is a Ford B500 from 1974. Bought it off a guy for $2,000 last summer to turn into a gaffer truck. I got it running pretty well. It just needs a new voltage regulator, but that's $60 I don't have. You know what? We can talk about this later. The winter I was 16 years old, my brother died by suicide. And that summer break, as a way to sort through my emotions, one day I picked up a camera and made little video projects, one every single day for like a month and a half. That's really when I started taking all this seriously. Within a year, I was shooting small commercials for local businesses. I'd eventually end up at the Motion Picture Institute of Michigan. I'm not actually from Michigan, I'm from Kansas, but MPI was the closest, most affordable film school I could go to after I dropped out of engineering school. That's a story for another day. Now after that, I moved back home, opened up a full-service boutique studio, made a couple short films here and there. I was doing pretty all right for myself. And then when I was 23, I realized I was a trans person. And it's Kansas. I was forced to shut my doors. I ended up moving out to LA knowing one person, a cinematographer I'd worked for a year or so prior. He gave me my first gig out there about 2 weeks in as an AC. From that point on, I had pretty consistent work as an AC for him, and occasionally as a DP for small projects. But then one day his usual gaffer wasn't available, and he knew I had lit everything up to this point that I have done with my studio and all of that. So he gave me the job. It was a Nestle commercial. It was the highest paid thing I had ever worked at that point. And it's primarily the reason why I've worked as a gaffer for the last 6 years. That was also right before COVID hit. Now, like a lot of people in the industry during COVID, I struggled to make ends meet. I had to rely very heavily on my skill sets outside of the film industry to survive. I did blacksmithing on TikTok. I've been a blacksmith for about 12 years, but I'm honestly a little resentful of it because even though I enjoyed it, it's now what most people know me for, and I want to be known for my film work, but that just hasn't happened outside of my personal relationships. I spent a total of 8 years out in LA. After COVID hit, the strikes cut the industry down again, and while I always had a trickle of work, I never really had any solid footing out there. But one of the big reasons for that is I hated LA. On top of never really finding truly sustainable film work in LA, I actually never took any of my days to unionize, but that's a grumble for another day. I was out there pitching projects. I've been pitching projects for about 9 years now. But to nobody's surprise, none of my weird, queer, in every sense of the word, projects were ever funded. But I can't tell you how many times I have heard, Dana, this is really cool and original, this is such a great script, it's just, it doesn't fit our slate, or we're just not gonna risk it. Look, it's hard enough if you're a cis white guy to get your projects funded if you're not known right now, let alone if you're any kind of marginalized. Our industry's kind of in the can right now. I think I'd be lying if I didn't tell you that some of the pitched projects I did wouldn't have been good. I mean, I'm currently writing my 5th feature film right now, and the first 2 that I wrote, I think had some strong ideas, but weren't good scripts. It wasn't until around the 3rd feature script that I wrote that I feel like I fell into myself as a writer a little bit more. Now, that project I can do for $250,000. The 4th script that I wrote is the one we're shooting next summer for okay. And the 5th one, like I said, I'm still writing it. Actually, I mean, I started writing the 5th one before the one we're shooting this summer. So really that's the 4th one, and we're starting my feature career off with my 5th script. It makes sense, I promise. I applied for a grant for $25,000 that I'm waiting to hear back from. This would be a major boon for the project. I'd only have to raise $10K, but there's no guarantee I get it. Regardless of what happens with that, I'm gonna need to do some extra fundraising anyway, either crowdfunding or reaching out to private investors to try to hit that $35K mark. So while having the grant would be an incredible help, if I don't get it, it's not the end of the world. It's not gonna stop me from doing this project. So don't worry, we'll be fine. Hi, Editor Dana here, I guess. Please ignore our messy living room. It's the holidays, my partner and I have not been cleaning. I was gonna do, in this little section of the video, I was gonna do either a, we got the grant, or we didn't get the grant, but that's okay. I was gonna say one way or the other what happened, but we don't know anything yet. They were supposed to choose somebody in December, but that didn't happen. It's January 2nd when I'm recording this. So we're moving into the new year not knowing, but that's okay. We're going to stick to our game plan. I have the entire year mapped out for a timeline on how to do this. And we'll move forward from here. I'm going to move forward as if I am just doing crowdfunding. And if that grant comes through, it's going to be a happy little surprise, but Happy New Year, everybody. So why should you care? I mean, that's a fair question. The world's kind of shit right now. Why should I demand your attention, and where do my ambitions fall into all of this? I mean, we've got fascism on the rise pretty much everywhere, and here in the States, while I'm fairly safe out here in New Mexico, this administration and many individuals do not want someone like me existing positively in the public eye. They want me afraid and without rights. Now, art is an incredible tool, both for creating and battling propaganda. There's a reason why the Nazis in the 30s spent so much time, effort, and money trying to find, cultivate, and fund approved art. They also famously used movies as a propaganda tool to try to brainwash their population. If you want to learn more about that, I'll link some videos down below. I'm gonna have to read this next section off of my script because I made it too damn long. While we are currently not in the phase of total government control of art, because of the huge amount of money movies in particular require to produce, the government is incentivized to help fund certain projects to get a certain viewpoint across simply because they can afford it, while marginalized viewpoints struggle to get made. Combine that with the accessibility of movies and TV in our modern world, and you can influence a huge amount of people all at once. Now, Hollywood has done this in one form or another probably since the beginning. Look at any police procedural or most war movies made in the US, and there's gonna be some kind of propaganda. Now, fighting fascism has always included supporting the arts, but when it comes to the huge cost that movies require to make, I think more often than not that means communities need to come together to pull some money. Now, why should you support my movie specifically? Well, it is a piece of media designed to fight fascism. But I'll talk more about that later. I've also been thinking an awful lot about what it means for me as an individual to resist authoritarianism. I mean, I live in New Mexico. There's not an awful lot to do here. And me as a trans person, my biggest asset is going to be my voice anyway. There's also all the AI stuff, which is just an extension of fascist practices to begin with, but we should support all artists right now, especially, but if you don't want shitty AI movies in the future, supporting small filmmakers like me is, I think, gonna be a major part of the fight. It doesn't have to be me, but if you're able to, if you have the means to, consider donating to a couple projects you care about. I want to finish out this part of the conversation with hope. Authoritarianism and fascism thrive when we lose hope. So any kind of hope that we can have a better life, that people like me can thrive, and that, yes, that I can make feature films regularly. Any hope is resistance. Now, I know you probably have some questions, like, Dana, what's your movie about? This video is not a pitch video. It's not to fully describe the plan or to solicit money. After 9 years of pitching to traditional funding sources, I've learned that nobody really cares about your project if they don't care about you. Pitching yourself first is one of the most important things you can do. So, consider this video an introduction to me. So this channel is going to be all about getting this and future feature films off the ground. And for this particular project, that means spending a lot of time in my workshop on some practical effects. I'm not going to spend the most time on these videos. They're allowed to be imperfect so that I can focus on the films that I am making and not get bogged down in this. But if all that sounds good to you, there's a reason this bus metaphor exists. Come along for the ride. Is that cheesy? That's super cheesy. I don't care.